coming from. Um,
Mhm.
do I guess on an ethical basis, I would argue, and I would argue that jumping to conclusions of a police officer and jumping to a conclusion of an ordinary citizen though are not the same thing. Like I think like this is like my main problem is that I don't think like a conservative, not because they're a conservative, but a conservative arguing about any conclusion about any ordinary person, arguing like I would even assume this to like a Trump supporter to some degree.
Mhm.
An arguing conclusion about a police officer, I think it's more unethical to reach a conclusion about an ordinary person than to someone who's like an arm of the state. And I think this is obviously where we're going to clash a bit.
Well, no, actually, I won't. I haven't thought about this too much. I could probably agree with you that one is probably worse than the other, but I would still say unequivocally both are bad.
Oh yeah, I
That's
can
what I
agree
would
with
say.
that.
Yeah. Okay.
I can agree with that
But
to some
so
extent.
not only would I say both are bad, I wouldn't stand for either. Like both of them should be heavily discouraged. And if I say anybody doing any of this, I would, in some ways, when it comes to that one-off specific example, I would say that both of them are bad, but one can be worse than the other. But I would say that as a class of stuff that we can do, like misinformation as a whole class of stuff should be as diligently avoided as possible. But yeah, when it comes to like
Okay, yeah.
individual things, like for instance, like would you say it's better or worse if like a guy hits a girl versus a girl to hit a guy, right? I would say it's almost always going to be worse if a guy hits a girl just because of the level of force involved. But I will unequivocally say that both are absolutely bad and should absolutely be
Sure.
avoided, right? Yeah.
I'd agree with that. I can agree with you on that. Yeah, definitely. I can definitely see where you're like coming from and all of this stuff. But yeah. Ahrelevant, was there anything you wanted to pipe in and say?
I mean, you guys seem to be having a productive discussion so far, so I guess my only question would be, has your position shifted at all, or is it just like...
Okay, what position? Just so we're clear.
The position that like Vaush was in the right for making the statement and pushing back against the chatter who said that maybe we should wait for more information before we jump to a conclusion about something that we have very little information.
Okay, I will argue that Vaush, to some degree, was probably wrong, but I do think the planting one and the one where the cop is just having a mental breakdown, like I think those two things. I actually think the planting one is way more severe than the crying McDonald's cop.
Okay.
Then
I don't
the
know.
wait, is the Swine King a size 2 creature? Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Wait, you said McDonald's cop?
Yeah, so there was
the Vaush's. Did you know that video?
My Discord,
Destiny?
not yours, I think.
Which one?
The one where a crying McDonald's cop, she only got a coffee and she was crying, and Vaush.
Oh,
Vaush
bullied the fuck out of her.
Yeah, like.
Yeah.
So, I guess then I would ask you, Destiny, like, when do you think that jokes or satire of this sort are not okay?
Oh no.
Well, the question is like, what is your goal with the humor when you're joking or satirizing something?
I will
right?
maybe
like,
kind of say that perhaps Vaush happened to be a little only slightly in the wrong,
That's interesting.
but are ruled.
Yeah.
I think the satire from, at least what I understand Vaush's point, was that he thought that cops a lot of the time like to play the enemy and they sort of have a culture that everyone hates them, and I think that was sort of why he felt, to some degree, obviously he was ethically justified or like saying the stuff that he did.
Okay. You know that it is a fact that like black people commit more crime in this country than white people, right? So like without how I won't make funny thing to say, dude. Like the problem you're getting to is that like it is impossible for a left-leaning person to throw out arguments like this without like every conservative scratching their head and being like, wait a second. If you're gonna say shit like that, then I'm gonna do like the 1350 or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know what the abbreviation is. Right?
Yeah.
Like they're gonna come at you with all those same things. This is one of the reasons why like I used to do it a lot because I thought it was funny and I thought it was joking. But it's talking about like the Mayo side and like white people on Twitter making fun of white people. Like I used to do that shit all the time. But now it's like, but people on the left are unironically insane about this shit. So now it's not funny anymore because like, okay, hold on, you guys actually think that it's impossible to be racist against white people, or it's impossible for like any black person to be like racist against any white person. Like now this is like crazy. This is ridiculous. And I think you have to be really careful when you start throwing out arguments like, okay, well, cops tend to be this way. So if we see an individual cop having a bad day, we can just shit on them as hard as we want because it's funny. Because like you could run to so many bad implications with that, and your only real defenses are getting into weird esoteric areas like, well, as a class, police have this much power, and as a class, white people, so therefore, but individuals don't feel things on a class level. Nobody does. No individual feels things as a class. No white person has inherited the entire class of white privilege, much the same that no black person experiences single-handedly the entire brunt of all of like anti-black oppression in the United States, right? These things are like highly variable in how they play out in our lives. So I think it's I think you have to be really careful for stuff like that.
Okay, I can definitely understand where you're coming from. On whether black people commit more crime or not, I just can't answer that because I haven't like researched that, and I don't want to like say yes or no when I don't really know the answer to that.
That's fair.
Because like I guess also
I don't know
like
why
when
you
I've
wouldn't
debated
have,
a few
but-
conservatives now, just like talking to not debate, but talking to some of my conservative friends. Maybe America's different, but here it's not a statistic they bring up a lot. But maybe that's because like they're different countries. So yeah. So yeah, I've not really done much research into it, but I should and I will.
Sure. Well, I mean, like,
yeah.
that's not important. I'm just saying that, like, well, no, oh, hey,
Yeah.
hold on. Fuck.
Okay.
Let me be really clear. Because
Okay, yeah.
even if it is the case that one group of people commits more crime, it's not okay to treat every individual like they are that entire group.
Yeah.
That's like the point I was trying to make. Sorry. I'm not trying to say like, well,
No.
if it is the case that black people commit more crime, we can shit on all of them. That's not what I was trying
No,
to say. Sorry.
Destiny. I know your content like better than like.
Sure. I'm just
to
saying that
like
like, yeah, we gotta be really careful when we do like these types of like generalizations because they can be turned against us in other ways, and then we find ourselves at a loss for like, okay, well, fuck. Well, how do I defend this behavior if we did this behavior, or how can I attack that behavior if we, support this type of behavior? That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. So
Mhm.
like after this whole thing, I just want to ask Destiny like a couple of questions on like an unrelated stuff to the video, if that's okay.
Knock yourself out.
Okay. I guess the main question I want to ask you is, you often say you stopped debating lefties because you thought like the arguments like led to nothing. They didn't bring you that much utility. Is that correct?
Well, for a variety of ways. Like one,
Mm.
there's a lot of reasons why. One is that the arguments are usually dumb. They don't matter. It's stupid shit like communism versus socialism versus anarcho-syndactic or whatever dumb shit. Two is because the types of people that inhabit those spaces are very quick to cancel you or
Yep.
like destroy your career,
Mhm.
which is very scary to me. Those are the two reasons
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Those two, yeah.
I can understand. I definitely think like leftists should focus more on like social democratic reforms, at least in the short term, than like arguing this type of stuff. But in saying that, do you feel that one of the reasons also you don't debate lefties is because the way they sort of treated you and cancelled you in a way, or tried to, that sort of shutted you out, so you were largely only left to some degree with being able to debate conservatives?
I mean, it might be the case that I can debate lefties if I like really
Right.
try, but it's like it's at the point now where like on my Twitter, if I see somebody and I think they're like a hardcore lefty, I'll just block them,
Right.
because it's just not worth it's not even worth trying to get into that type of engagement.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been blocked, so, but maybe I haven't said that much.
Well, yeah, be careful.
Yeah, like I completely understand that. I just think like the sad thing is that I think largely we're going, if like we want to keep having what I would consider like democratic wins, like leftists and liberals have to work together. And I just think like the way, in a way, I think the way leftists have like reacted to sort of your community has definitely been bad. And do you see like any way that you think liberals and leftists can work together in the future, or do you think like this is just the way
I mean,
online
leftists
politics
seem
is?
the problem is that one, leftists don't have much power in
It
real
was
life,
your
and then
Discord
two, they
for once.
constantly act like they are the most important people, and they're like they mean everything in the real world. So like leftists on Twitter are constantly attacking the entirety of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I think that's
And
fairly bad.
Yeah. So like why would you want to work with these people when one, they lose all their elections, they get crushed
Yeah.
everywhere they go, but they act like they're owed the entire world. Like why would anybody want to work with them, right? I mean, like it'd be nice if it was possible to work together, but like sometimes it seems like the goals are so conflicting that yeah, I don't know. Most
Yeah.
lefties online to do incredibly ineffectual or don't understand like how to make any type of progress. It's either all or nothing for them.
Okay. What would you say like leftist goals are? Do you think and like liberals goals are? Like, what do you think are the differences?
The differences? I feel like leftists just want to go farther, but I think there's a ton of overlap. Like, I think that any leftist should prefer a perfect, like, Democrat world or left-leaning
Yeah.
world because it would make it easy for them to push for more things. But it seems like for them, it's very much a binary. It's either all or nothing. You're either like a
Yeah.
full-on leftist or you're a literal fascist. Like that's literally what
Mm.
a lot of the online conversation boils down to, which is insane. But yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I definitely think even people who like consider themselves like to be sock dems like the squad and that, I definitely think like it seems like I argue this on, I think it was a few lefty Reddits, I argue that like the squad should just vocally when they're running in primaries, like be more pro Biden, and I think especially with like some of maybe the people, at least in house races, strong house races who may have voted against certain Biden policies that arguing it from like a pro Biden point of view, they would win more than like arguing that Biden bad sort of thing.
My
And
Discord
I
is
think
So, yeah.
mine.
I think that if you watch like the evolution of AOC, I think she's figured
Yep.
this out really,
Yeah.
really, really well. Because because like in the beginning, she was just way too hardcore anti everything having to do with the Democratic Party. It was so cringe. But
Yeah.
now like she's very careful and that she will say like this is something that I think the Democrats really oh, okay, dude. Sorry. This is something that like the Democrats could do better. But this is something that Biden is doing that's really good, and she tries to like do this thing where she's like simultaneously like kind of trying to push them farther to the left, but she's also like pretty supportive too, which I think is really
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and the last question I want to ask you is, I remember you saying this a while ago, don't know if you have any thoughts on this. When I argue with certain people, I try to some degree argue, at least like on basic issues like vaccines, so forth for my family. I try to argue from the basis of like facts. But I don't know sort of how to like override the sort of like anecdotes and personal stories, and I wonder if you like have any maybe advice for me and the general when people talk about this.
Something that I found that's like super helpful now. You're not able to do this unfortunately, or maybe you are
Yeah.
because I don't know you well enough. But
Mhm.
I have a kid, and when I make appeals to my child, I think it's very, very easy to beat other parents in debates like that.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
so yeah, so when I talk about vaccines to another parent, it's always going to be through the lens of like our most important thing on this planet is protecting our children and doing what we can to protect our children.
Ooh.
Like, how can you not
Got a
be
collector,
in
huh?
favor of this particular thing, or how can you not, right? Like,
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
and
turned
I think
into
that
another
way is I
Destiny
think pretty
react
powerful
stream.
generally. But
Okay. Well, I guess with that said, thank you so much, Destiny. I've admired you for so long, and it's quite amazing to see you talking to me. So thanks for that.
well, thanks a lot, buddy. Be careful.
Yeah, I will.
Well, here, go.
Okay.
What are you and Irrelevant? You guys go back talking. I'm curious what the conversation is now.
Okay, I don't know. Like, does Ahrelevant
Sure,
have anything
100.
else he wants to
Pepe
say to me?
wins.
Or...
Well, okay, so yeah, we can address the ambushing comment if you'd like. Still,
Okay.
all right.
Yep.
So, I stated that this was a lie. You stated in response it wasn't a lie. What it was you. Sorry, what was your response specifically? I don't want to say you felt as though, but like it was because you said that like Dylan didn't speak until like later.
Okay. So to get back to these tweets. All right. So. Okay, so I was ambushed after people came into the call. Okay, so my argument was that Dylan spoke about 10 to 15, maybe even 20 minutes. I'm not good at time management. He spoke. Then Duma Politics came in. Now, I'm still going to argue, and I think this is where we're going to have some clashes, is that I'm going to argue when it's your stream, you have control of the stream. And I don't think I had the right to go, okay, you know what? I'm not willing to have a conversation with Doom because it's your stream. You can have who you want on your stream. But I also don't think that makes it wrong for me to number one, tweet and tell what I think is my side because I was clipped. I was getting clipped. And number two, also, I don't think it would ever be wrong for me to say that I felt I was ambushed. I don't particularly
Wait, so
think
then
that it...
sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
go on. No, it's
Okay,
okay.
so then
Yep,
why'd
go.
you tweet it?
Huh?
So then why'd you tweet it? If you didn't, because you just said you didn't feel like it would be right to say that you were ambushed, but then you just tweeted it right after, immediately after.
Okay. I made this comparison before. Well, I argued, let's say with my little sister, and she is doing something, she does things that I don't like, right? Just because I don't like everything she does doesn't mean I have the demand to say you should not perform that action. But it does mean that I still think it would be okay to say I really don't think this is wise. Like, these are two very different things. And I think in regard to this, just because I didn't say that you should not do that action doesn't mean that it would also be unethical for me to say that I feel that I felt that I was ambushed. I think like these.
Yeah, so my whole point is if you felt uncomfortable with Doomer Politics coming into the Discord, why didn't you just say it? Not like demand that I not bring him in, but just say, hey, I'm not really comfortable with this.
Because it's not my stream, and I don't think I really have the right to do it. Also, the third argument that I made for this is that we all know that Twitch is like blood sports, a debate is blood sports, and if I had left, well, everyone would go, oh, well, he can't defend his opinions.
So then,
if I had stayed and demanded it, then people would have said I was being a baby and I wasn't willing. You know what I mean? My view throughout this whole thing is that I wish I had known beforehand that I was going to be talking to 3 people, not only one person. Now with Destiny, it's a little bit different because it's Destiny. But go on.
Okay, so for one, right? You knew that Dylan was in the channel prior to you even coming in, right?
No. Okay, go on. Yep. But he was
did you
muted,
not?
so I didn't. Okay, yeah.
He was talking
Well,
literally.
my fourth argument
he
is gonna
literally
be that I fucking hate you.
So I think I literally talked to him before bringing you on. Like, were you just not watching my stream prior to bringing you on? I talked to him, I believe, about bringing you on, but I know I talked to him during the conversation prior to you joining.
Okay, no. I made sure the stream was muted when I was in the waiting room, which is why when you said, well, when I rewatched the stream and you said, is this spreadsheet reviews, I didn't respond because I didn't want, the backing of the
Yeah, but did you watch?
Because I know streamers find that really annoying.
Did you watch anything prior to that though? You didn't watch the. So like, if I look at your logs, I'm not going to see that you were watching the conversation where Dylan was actively participating in it.
I don't think, from my perspective, I don't remember Dylan talking before that.
He was, for sure. He was engaging in the conversation. Yeah, engaging in the conversation prior. He joined the conversation before the talk that I had before you.
Okay, no. I think, I could be wrong here, but I think I had gone and had dinner, and because it's night for me.
Okay.
And then I came back and I saw you debating an Australian, and I saw that he was doing, in my opinion only, that he was and did do worse than me. So I thought I would give it a shot because I thought at least I would be able to argue my points a bit better than he did.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to pull up the logs, you can, but
no. I'm not really caring about that much. If you feel like Dylan wasn't gonna come back or wasn't going to be here inside of the discussion when he was sitting in the chat room, or didn't see him engaging in the other thing, that's fine. I still don't think it's fair for you to characterize Doomer Politics coming in as an ambush when you had all of the rights to be able to leave and things like this. When you said, well, like you would have been called X, Y, and Z, that is a choice that you're making, though. That is a choice that you're making. You're choosing to not leave or disengage when you feel ambushed. And honestly, the optimum scenario, just tell me that you feel uncomfortable in that conversation. How am I supposed to know, right, that you feel ambushed if none of those things are happening?
My main point about like the efficacy of this is that I think that if you're going to have a debate with someone, it should never be 1v3. I think a 1v3 match is you're generally outnumbered, or if you would prefer a 1v2 even. Like, I was severely outnumbered. I had 3 people talking to me, all interrupting each other. I just don't think it was the best.
I can understand you feeling at odds with like Dylan being there making arguments, but we were talking about Doomer Politics. Do you not think that it's fair that he might join in?
I still think that just because you're talking about someone doesn't mean that person is necessarily going to come into the call.
Sure.
I don't know how to argue this any other way.
You can. Sorry.
Go on.
I thought you were doing. So you can make that argument. That's fine. He wouldn't necessarily have to have joined the call. However, right, when we were talking about whether or not you can get ambushed, that's a separate thing, right? Whether or not he can join the call or whether or not you're ambushed are two radically different statements, okay? Whether or not he could or couldn't join the call during it could just be, like a minor inconvenience. But you're going from minor inconvenience to ambushing, right? That ambushing doesn't imply, it literally explicitly states intent, right? An ambush is always intentional. So this would mean that you believed, or you're explicitly saying, that I and Doomer Politics and Dylan explicitly went out of our way to ambush you, to surprise you.
No.
That's what an ambush is.
Hold on. I don't believe that Doomer Politics and Dylan Burns did that, but I do think, and this is a feeling, this is not factual, this is a feeling, that you went there to bring other people into the call for some backup. I do think that. And
Why?
I guess, because I feel a lot of a lot of this, I guess, is feelings based, but I feel a lot of the conversations when we're talking about streamers, I think most of them are done in bad faith. I haven't, unless you can name me one, I think there are very few times when there are debates about streamers who aren't in that call, and largely this debate wasn't really about Doom Politics, it was about Vaush. I think
It was
most
about
of these
Doomer
debates...
Politics' video and Vaush's response to that video. And your whole critique was that you think the video was really bad.
Yeah, I still think the video is bad. And,
right, and so it was a conversation about Doomer Politics.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, look, a lot of this is feelings based, but I haven't seen, except the one I had with Destiny. I mean, I haven't seen many good faith discussions. Oh, actually, no, Destiny and Xander Huller spoke about Vaush. That was okay. But I haven't seen many good faith discussions when we're talking about streamers, because I think a lot of it is blood sports, and I think often.
When you're saying that I intentionally wanted backup, do you think that's the most reasonable conclusion to draw, or do you think that's just a conclusion that you're drawing for like a specific reason?
No, I think a lot of these conversations are done in bad faith. So I think it makes sense that you would want other people who I guess are more familiar with like Vaush's content to some degree. I mean, from what I've seen anyway, you don't like watch the VODs.
Yeah, I don't watch very many of Vaush's VODs.
And I mean, Doomer Politics did watch whatever 200 hours. So
I've definitely watched more than 200 hours of Vaush, I can tell you that. I probably watched more than 200 hours of Vaush in the last year.
Okay.
Ahrelevant, what happened to you? Jesus.
Dude, I'm full blown React Andy, dude. You were talking about it yesterday,
Destiny.
Oh,
you mean like in stream? Okay, I thought you meant like on your own free time. You're just
no.
Man.
Wait, what do you mean? What happened to you? So what if I want to relax with some
Hold on.
No, I think you got something you want to say.
I'm going to help.
I want to hear, Desi. What
Wait,
you
I'll be
got
right
to
back. Sorry. I'll be right back.
Yeah, okay. I get it. I want to hear what's wrong if I want to relax with some fucking Vaush, dude. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear.
I just think it's a little bit weird. Well, maybe it's a little bit weird because you don't particularly like him.
Oh no, I mean I don't like Hassan, but I watch. I would argue it's literally my job, right?
100.
And I just
not yours.
I genuinely enjoy doing it. I like seeing conflicting and dissenting opinions because that helps me refine my opinion. I think agreeing with people makes no fucking sense because I don't end up getting anywhere challenging my opinions at all. So I like watching people I disagree with.
I guess, and this is like not an attack upon your character, but I guess like I'm largely skeptical about drama channels because the first drama channel I ever saw was Keemstar, and I don't know how you feel about the way that Keemstar...
I don't like Keemstar.
You know? So I think there is often a lot of skepticism from a lot of people when they hear like
if you want to make that argument 100%, like drama channels are fucking usually cringe. The reason why I label myself as a drama channel is because I don't feel like I go nearly as far as what I would consider to be what I feel is right for me to call myself a political channel. I don't do research streams. I don't rummage through articles on my stream almost at all. What I really like doing, I just probably like doing what most average average Twitch viewers like is I just like looking at fucking drama compilations, debate compilations, watching debates, talking about debates, talking about, Twitter memes. That's what I want to, that's what I like doing. That's what I want to do. And so I call myself a drama channel, not a political channel. That's the reason why.
I mean, I actually think I can understand a little bit because, like, the main purpose of, like, Breadtube Reviews is a YouTube channel that I have. And it was mainly because I was interested in, like, reviewing, like, the content from Breadtube and, like, where they were going wrong to some extent. So, to that extent, I can actually understand that.
Okay.
I'm willing to, like, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
so if we're going to get back on topic to explicitly...
Sorry.
It's not... it wasn't... It was still connected to the topic. It was just, like, I want to bring it back around.
Yeah.
So when you say I am ambushed with 2 other people to come into call, do you think it's perhaps more reasonable that I was just hanging out with Dylan before you came in? All right, I brought you in thinking that it wasn't going to be a big deal. Dylan was just going to sit there AFK, which he did for like 90% of it. Sit there AFK and just kind of chill and hang out with me. And Doomer Politics came along because I think Dylan wanted to add him. And so I just was like, why not? We're talking about Doomer Politics, and that happened. Or do you think that's probably a more reasonable solution? Or do you think that, like, me ambushing you is a more reasonable solution?
I mean, both to me, and I mean, this is where we're going to disagree, but I think both could be reasonable. And
which one's more reasonable? Is not the question of whether or not both are reasonable. I'm wondering which one do you think is more likely to have happened? That I was just hanging out with Dylan Burns, and then Dylan Burns was like, hey, we're talking about Doomer Politics, maybe we should bring Doomer Politics in? Or do you think that, like, I intentionally went out of my way to, like, because I thought it was, like, losing a debate to, like, get people into the call?
Sure, 100.
Okay, it was the Dark Triad.
I mean, I'm very split on this because, like, I can definitely accept that your explanation has validity, but I also think my explanation has validity only because, I think these conversations are often very blood sportsy, and a lot of streamers. I can't like argue, hey, you're responsible for a lot of streamers, but a lot of streamers do bring in backup, and you would agree with that to some extent, wouldn't you?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Smaller streamers, sure. I don't see Hassan. Well, Hassan doesn't really debate.
No, Hassan doesn't debate anymore.
Vaush or Destiny doing it. They typically don't bring up.
Because they're the best.
So I'm not. And those are typically people that I look at. Yeah. I mean, I've seen some smaller streamers doing it sometimes.
Yeah.
Doing what?
Yeah.
Like bringing
backup.
Oh yeah.
Like that type of stuff. So this is why I thought that you are relevant. We're bringing him back up because
I'm
number
not
2,
trying to.
I mean, sure, go on.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Number 2, okay, I've been watching you for like 2 weeks. Okay, and I don't know. It just seemed like, I guess, the drama channel like aesthetic. This and the fact that I didn't know the other 2 were in there, I think was a fairly reasonable conclusion. Because if you're a drama channel, or what I think of as a drama channel, I'd expect, well, obviously this person like does well when there's like not only drama surrounding streamers, but probably drama surrounding like him.
Oh no, I fucking hate it when drama surrounds me. I'm a fucking hypocrite. I'm a fucking hypocrite. I fucking hate drama about me.
And having Doomer Politics and...
I'm so sorry.
Somebody please get a fucking soundbite of that, please, dude.
Oh my goodness.
Please,
it's okay.
It's
okay. Oh, wait. Okay, wait. So, yeah, I think like those why like it was the drama channel aesthetic. It was like generally, but you know what I mean. Generally, drama channels do better when there's also drama surrounding them because that's a way to get more people like onto the channel. So I think that type of stuff is why I think at the time that I reached a reasonable conclusion. And this is like where we're going to disagree, and I understand where you're coming from. Believe me, I do, because like I'm arguing something against you that you could consider like your moral character.
So I just want to be more clear of what we're talking about. I'm not trying to say your conclusion isn't unreasonable. What I'm trying to ask is which is more probable. That's what I'm looking at. Okay? Do you think it's more probable that Dylan was hanging out inside of my chat room, just shooting the shit with me in a conversation before, just hanging out, and then I just added you to the call, and then later, Dylan was like, hey, shouldn't we add the person that we're actually talking about to the call? Do you think that's more reasonable? Or do you think it's more reasonable that I kept Dylan in there with nefarious intent to try and ambush you, even though he's already in the call, like to in the hopes that he would unmute after X period of time and take my side? And then also, because I can show you proof that I literally never messaged Dylan about getting Doomer Politics in, and Dylan said that he got Doomer Politics in. So I had no part in participating.
I can argue that your explanation is more probable, but I'll still keep the caveat that my explanation is still reasonable.
Okay.
Can we agree to that?
That's fine. So
okay.
So with that, do you think it's a good thing to go online and then put that I ambushed you?
Okay, because I think my argument is reasonable, I'm going to say yes.
Do you think that we should be going with do you not think that we should probably be going with a more charitable or more, at the very least, more probable, like, reason for somebody doing something?
This is like where we're going to disagree again, because I feel that to some extent you weren't charitable to me because, again, and I explain this later down, from my point of view, I don't think you would have like agreed to anything that wasn't Vaush bad. So this is like the problem I'm going to have, right?
That's kind of weird because I'm actually like known for the opposite.
Yeah, you were known for the opposite until like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So you are a Vaush fan.
Yeah, I had no problem. He said,
Oh,
now
wait,
you
wait,
feel
wait,
vindicated.
I'm Destiny. Did I ever say I wasn't a Vaush fan?
No, he's talking to me.
I'm talking to Ahrelevant.
Yeah,
He's a
so
Vaush fan. I
I
fucking
had
knew
no.
it.
Shut the.
Hold on. Oh, no. I have to defend Ahrelevant.
Start a
I have to
sardastic.
defend
No,
Ahrelevant.
just, I literally just
No,
verbally
I-
shitposted. Go back. I was just shitposting.
Okay.
Destiny. When I first found who you and Vaush were, I went through all your two's fucking videos. Okay? So, like, Ahrelevant probably has, like, better perspective than me when it comes to that.
Yeah. So, So, the reason why I say this is because I am amicable to the argument that like Vaush isn't a horrible person, and I was especially prior to this whole engagement. My thing is just that Vaush has been seen in many ways, in my opinion, to be incredibly unreceptive to criticism to the point where it makes me not in good faith able to say that he is like a good actor, a political actor, not a good faith political actor. I think often he can engage in good faith, but when it comes to criticism, he does not. He does not engage with criticism well. And I believe I can substantiate that, and I believe I
So you
did.
don't think that when Vaush was willing to agree at least to some of the criticisms in the video, you don't think that was him engaging in good faith?
No, I think that was an argument that could be interpreted as good faith, but you got to look at what was surrounded by it. What did he say before he said that? He said, well, my first instinct is to assume that this person's a hate watcher from Destiny's community.
Okay. We have to go back to, we're going to do poisoning the well?
Yeah,
We can
so
discuss that.
we disagreed on poisoning the well. I think he poisoned the well before making this simple concession. I don't think that this should be done of a upstanding political actor, no. I think he should have just been like, yeah, there are substantial
I think
things.
everyone poisons the well, though. Everyone poisons the well.
Just because everyone
I haven't
poisons
seen
the
one
well.
streamer who's not poisoned the well. Like, everyone does it.
Just because everybody poisons the well doesn't mean we ought to poison the well. You understand
And we
that?
have to also okay, but we have no, because we all
What?
number one, everyone poisons the well, but number two, you have to define poisoning the well. If your definition
hold
of
on.
poisoning the well
I thought so hold on, wait, because we can get to that in a second because you made a claim that
Sure.
I feel like we literally covered earlier. I made the claim that just because everybody poisons the well doesn't mean we should poison the well, and you disagreed with that, did you not?
Yes, because I think number one, okay, well, no, it's actually way more difficult than that. Because first we have to define. Well, I've actually gone a bit ahead of myself here. We have to define poisoning the well. I need to know what your definition of poisoning the well is.
Well, that's what got us into this. Do you want to redo our conversation from yesterday, our 2-hour conversation? That's what it was all about.
No one to redo it. Is there no way to like? I don't want to like waste your time. I mean, is there no way
No,
to like?
I mean, we could go back over it. I'm just saying that's literally our conversation from yesterday.
Sure. Okay. Then yeah. Okay. I mean, I feel like when I spoke to you yesterday, I spoke to you without asking your definition on things, and I think that was probably a little bit bad faith of me because I probably should have asked for your definition of things before like criticizing your positions when I didn't like fully understand them. That's probably like one of my biggest critiques of like my debate, my performance yesterday.
Okay. All right. I mean, unless you want to go back over the conversation, though, like, because that's what line we're going to set down if we do this.
Okay, but sure. I just feel like you're arguing that like he poisoned the well, and
Okay,
I think
so
number one, we have to define what poisoning the well is, and number two,
let's try this
then
instead, okay?
then we
Because
have to argue.
Mhm.
No, hold on. Then we have to argue the realistic implementation of how not to poison the well and whether that is realistic. These
Yeah,
are I think the very two big things that we have to actually.
Okay. So let's start with this idea though. If you believe that he was poisoning the well, would you agree that he had a bad reception to that critique?
Okay, first I have to know, because what poisoning the well may mean to me and what it may mean to you
Sure.
are two very different things.
Correct.
So I cannot argue whether he is poisoning the well to some degree, unless I know that my definition of poisoning the well and your definition is the same.
No. I'm just asking, from your definition of poisoning the well, if he was, would you agree that he was not taking that critique well? Yes or no?
Okay, I don't think necessarily poisoning the well means you're taking the critique wrong. For example,
No.
I'm
I'm
hold
not
on.
talking nebulously. I'm talking about Vaush specifically. In that specific video, okay? So
no, okay, I'm gonna argue no here.
Wait, hold on. You guys keep saying I don't know if our definition of poison the well is the same or not. Can you both just define it?
yeah, so my issue right now is I'm just trying to figure out if we even need to have this, and it seems like we don't. What he said is, even if under his definition, if he agrees Vaush was poisoning the well, it doesn't mean that he wasn't taking the critique not properly, which means it's completely vapid. Even if I submit to his definition of poisoning the well, and even if we were to agree that he was poisoning the well, we still wouldn't get to the conclusion that I have, which is that poisoning the well means that he didn't take the critique well. So it's a completely vapid point. We could even agree on it.
I mean, I think you can poison the well and still take a critique well, right? Isn't that possible?
Hold on. The issue is, in the way that he was poisoning the well, I would argue he wasn't. Because he prefaced all of the critique, all of the moments in which he was taking the critique, he was trying to say, well, he's just a Destiny simp, or he's just, my first reaction is to just say that he's a hate watcher and things like this. In a similar
yeah, I mean, like at that point, you'd have to like go forward and look at the actual like response to the criticism. Because I could, for instance, I could say something like
you said this type of stuff before Destiny? When you've seen certain critiques? I don't know.
Well, no, like I could say something like, I think that like Vaush is like a fucking loser, but this is a good point. Like you have to actually contend with this and blah blah blah. But I could also say like, oh, Vaush is like a loser. He doesn't even know what he's talking about here, right? So for instance, like I'm trying to think. Vaush on one of the things, I think it was over the cop stuff. He might have like poisoned the well a little bit on that prior to that, but he said like, yeah, maybe some of this cop stuff is a little bit hyperbolic.
So it was on the Sam Harris shit,
I think, yeah.
believe.
But then there was another thing where Vaush went off on like Rem saying shit like, oh, it's like fake degree haver, like he lied about his education, but he didn't actually contend with anything Rem had said. So that's like an example.
Well, and then he also said that he's just a hate watcher and that 80% of the video is garbage. And it's like, okay, there's no substantiation.
Okay, so from what I remember,
yeah.
From what I remember, what happened is that Vaush first saw the video. His face and his whole I guess reaction to the video was one of skepticism, but I wouldn't say full on rejection, right? So that's what I'd argue. It was skepticism. Then he goes and he scrolls through the videos, and he says, well, Count Dankula and Sargon are doing it here, but then this critique looks like more of a left-leaning critique. So I think to argue, and then he goes, this guy is right-wing. Then I was like, maybe this guy's like a Destiny fan. So, then he even said like maybe this, and I think him or one of his chatters.
So
like
I just want to get back to the point that even because this is going to be a vapid conversation yet again, because you said, remember that even if we agree with your definition and we prove that there was poison in the well.
But I think your view of poisoning the well is any criticism about someone before you see something. That is what I think your definition of poisoning the well is. This is the problem.
No, it's not any criticism. Wait, hold on. If Vaush
Wolf says you must first define something by what it is not.
Let's say, and then he says that like, oh, this Ahrelevant guy covers drama quite a bit, right? I'm not too sure what he's going to say about this. I'm not too sure what kind of opinions he's going to have, if it's going to be drama baity or what, right? That's more substantive, right? In comparison to like, this guy's just a hate watcher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just because the title is what? Vaush is unironically evil? Oh, yeah, he's a hate watcher.
Okay, are you telling me, Ahrelevant, that if I did a video entitled, no offense, this is not what I believe. Well, actually, no, I don't believe this.
Okay.
That Ahrelevant is a dumb fuck. Are you not going to sit there and go, this video is probably bad faith? Or are you going to sit there and go, hey, I'm actually going to watch this video?
You know what's
like
actually...
the same open mind
you've kind of activated my trap card. How about the example of somebody tweeting at me said I ambushed them, and then whether or not I would actually... How is that... Wait, how is that not the same? Wait, how is that not the same? You tweeted at me saying that I ambushed you. And here I am having a back and forth, a genuinely good discourse with you. What do you mean? How is that not the same? You literally characterized me as a guy that brought in backup and ambushed you with Dylan Burns and Doomer politics. You then proceeded to say that I was a coward who probably wasn't going to have you on when you didn't even ask to be back on my channel.
Realm.
I had to go out of my way to ask you back on.
Yes, and I'm actually thankful for that. Okay, so your argument is that my tweet is at least... Okay, so you're going to argue that you were more good faith to my tweet than Vaush was when he first saw the Vaush's Ironically Evil video?
Yeah, I would think 100%, yeah. I mean,
okay.
especially...
Do you believe...
hold on,
do you believe...
Huh? Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that me saying I was ambushed and calling someone evil is similar?
Yeah, so no, I'm going to say that the levels, that's what I was about to say. I don't think the levels are the same. I don't think this is an adequate thing. But what you said directly to me is if somebody calls me out, am I going to have a genuine discourse with them? I think you picked me as the worst example. I literally have a Discord or ban emote in my chat room because I refuse to ban people unless they're typing like slurs in my chat room before engaging in discourse with them. You picked the worst person to say this to.
You know what? Did. I'm actually going to give you credit for that because that's like one of my criticisms of the online left, that I think they ban people too quickly. So credit where credit is due.
Okay.
But I don't think it's the same, and I think, and see, here's I guess my main argument. I think Vaush acted more good faith than I think I think most people would.
Okay,
and I know this sounds very bad.
No, this is the difference. I don't care about what other people do. What I care is what other people ought to do. Okay? Just because everybody's throwing shit at each other and making up misinformation. I thought this was established. Hold on. Just allow me to get this off. I thought this was already established in the conversation you just had with Destiny. Okay? A bunch of people online and the online left and what have you.
We only spoke about misinformation.
Yeah, and what was about that misinformation that you kept referencing? Well, other people do it. News organizations do it. And Destiny's point was that, well, yeah, they do it, and we criticize them for doing it, so we should criticize these people for doing it. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Even if I agree with the idea that, like, most people can't take criticism well, which, yes, objectively they cannot, I'm going to make the argument, and I'm going to call bullshit when I see somebody not taking criticism well.
Okay, I'm going to make two arguments. Okay. The first, okay, all right. Okay, the first argument I'm going to make is that I don't think Vaush was poisoning the well unless you assume that poisoning the well is... Okay, I'll give you a great example. This is the example. Did you hear Vaush's conversation with Booksmarts?
Yes.
Okay, do you remember when Vaush said, when there was a debate, it was between Vaush and Destiny, and Vaush was making the argument that he doesn't think arguing that the class of someone and arguing that the class of someone might influence their political ideals is poisoning the world. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay, I think it's similar to that. I think...
Wait, do you agree with Vaush on that point?
What?
That, like, when he was making references to Destiny's wealth, that it wasn't a form of poisoning the well?
Okay, here's what I'd argue. I think that in that case, okay, not so concerned with poisoning the well, but I do think in that case, what Vaush did was wrong. I'm gonna like flat out say that. But I am going to argue that I don't think poisoning the well is looking at someone and seeing like the community they may come from and seeing if that community or the ideological orientation that the person come from and saying that, hey, this ideological orientation or community that they come from probably influences their thoughts about me. I don't think that is poisoning the well.
Posters rise
unless
up.
you
Sorry,
Huh?
can keep going. I'm trying to influence this spam.
Okay. So I don't think that saying that someone comes from a political orientation or community, I don't think that is poisoning the well, unless we accept poisoning the well as like any criticism of the person before you've seen any of their content, like your first impression of a person, if you are voicing your first impression of a person. And that's all Vaush was doing from my point of view. He was voicing impression with the person.
Okay, so then
However, I would
Alright.
also argue if that your argument is that he's poisoning the well, even just if you argument that my definition of poisoning, what I think your definition of poisoning the well is, which is voicing voicing your
You
first
said
impressions about a
critique.
person.
You said
Huh?
critiquing the person that did a response to you was poisoning the well, is what you characterized to me.
Okay, sorry. Go. Say that
Sorry.
again?
I thought you were looking for the definition of poisoning the well that you gave to me, and you had previously
No.
said that. Okay.
I was arguing that I think your definition of poisoning the well is when anyone who like critiques a person before, I guess, like their first impressions, before they've seen like their material or something, that you believe that is poisoning the well. When I think
No.
it's not poisoning the well to say, okay,
So
this person
I can
looks
just tell
like he
you,
comes from this community.
It's ad hominem, right? That doesn't lead to an actual argument. So it'd be like saying, like, hey, for instance, this BreadTube guy has the name BreadTube in their name. They're clearly a leftist, so they have no idea what they're talking about.
I mean, I wouldn't say that was wrong.
Hey, true. But
Hey,
no,
hey,
like,
if
that's
if
what I
you're
mean.
a conservative, you probably naturally would not think I know what I'm talking about because if you were a conservative, which I'm not saying you are, I'm saying if you were
Sure.
a conservative, that would be a fair argument based on.
I don't think it would be a fair
think
argument. I think
Okay.
I think that you have to prove that the individual with which you're talking about doesn't know what they're talking about, because some conservative might know what they're talking about.
Sure, and I would argue, okay, conservative's a very bad example. Conservative such a broad thing. Okay, let's say like a not right wing like Sargon of Akkad type person, like or someone from Sargon's community. If they did a video saying like breadsheet reviews is a dumb fuck or something, like I would argue, well, that person, well, obviously this person's argument to some extent is going to be influenced from the fact that they're from Sargon's of Akkad's community. They're obviously probably a traditionalist conservative, and so this is obviously going to influence like their perspectives and views on things. And I think saying that is not poisoning the well unless we accept poisoning the well as being before you see someone's content, the fact that I don't know what the video looks like and how the channel looks and what the comments are saying, arguing that this person may be from one of these communities and probably influences the way like they see Vaush. I don't think arguing that is poisoning the well. I don't think that Vaush was even particularly saying, unless I could be wrong here, but from what I remember, Vaush was particularly saying even that this guy's a dumb fuck. He was largely arguing, well, this guy is from DGG, but these comments look right wing. I don't think that it particularly is poisoning the well, unless we're accepting poisoning the well as,
Okay, so how
what I
about
said before.
how about the other day when he said, right wingers are liking, Doomer is liking right wingers' comments in his comment section in reference to like, I think he literally explicitly said that he's not taking him seriously and that's a big red flag for him. And that
Wait,
he's not.
did Vaush say he wasn't? Okay, from what
Correct.
I remember, unless you're asking the question that I asked Vaush,
No, I don't think it was. I think it was yesterday.
Okay.
We just
Because
watched
I
it.
do know that Vaush said that he calls me unironically evil and he expects me to take him seriously. I mean, I do know he said that, but I mean,
Sure. I don't think that's unreasonable to be less amicable to somebody calling you evil or what have you. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't remember Vaush saying that bit.
Okay, let's assume that it happened. Would you say that that's a form of poisoning the well?
Okay. See, I still have the problem here, and the problem here is that I need to know what you mean by poisoning the well.
I already defined it. It's an ad hominem. It's like something not actually relevant to the actual discussion, not actually relevant to the critique. You just kind of throw it as a dig.
Okay, then I need to critique this then. Do you think that the political rotational community that they come from, when I've just spoke to Destiny about misinformation and how if you watch someone's content for long enough, you can start to view things like through that community's lens to some degree, do you not believe that it's a fair argument to go that being from some community or some ideological orientation or from right-wing communities or whatever, that can influence someone's view? Like, this is the problem I have, is that I think that was relevant.